Okay, I'm Elf Gaming, and today we're going to be building something, kind of an experimental thing. Again, like I always say with these types of things, leave the stupid to me. I'm going to build a dummy load for radio testing. This is not, of course, not official, built. This is a homebrew thing using, glass jar size with its lid. You'll need 2 lengths of copper wire. Make sure these wires are at least as tall as the jar. You'll need an SO238 bulkhead type with, all of its fittings. This one here came out of a Cobra CB radio. It was junk. It also has the lock washer and the nut. That you'll need a pair of scissors and some to cut the sandpaper. Okay, that's the only thing I'll be using that for. Good wire cutters here. This bit here is optional. This will tee off, not tee off, but angle over. You'll also need, if you're an American, a soldering iron. If you're European, a soldering iron. And the appropriate solder. So there's that. Oh yeah, and you'll also need some type of radio that you're going to be checking this. And with that radio, you are also going to need a watt meter. Here's the watt meter, and it's got its appropriate, go from the radio to the deal, to this and that, and yes, I have an adapter to get on that Motorola with, so no big deal there. Let's put that off to the side for now, and out of my way. I've already drilled the hole in this lid. You'll be needing some type of drill. I recommend one of these stepping bits. I believe you're going to go down about 3/4 or so on it. If you don't have one of those, a big drill bit, or you could punch a bunch of small holes and use something like that to cut it out. This is the way to go with this type of bit. This drill is a piece of shit. I don't recommend that. But it's all I had charged up at the time, so I have to deal with that. Down there. So we can begin. So I've already drilled this hole. I don't know if this is utterly is critical, but I'm going to attempt to sand out the paint around this hole. That way we have a pretty decent connection. If I can even, if I can get some of it just bare to get a good connection around this opening. I don't think it's critical, but working in radio all these years, good grounds mean everything. So. It's really tearing this sandpaper up, though. It's rough on the edges. I might try to this side here. It looks like it might be a little smoother. Yeah, the paint on this side is a lot easier to get on. And I'm going to paint this whole thing anyway, so it really doesn't matter what it looks like. Oh, there's another thing that you need. I mentioned that this is salt water, so you're going to need some regular table salt and some water, of course. The trick is the mixture has to be right. So I'm going to see if this works. I've seen this on the internet. People have built these. I've never done it, so I don't know. There's nothing to hide. It's about as good as I'm going to get that. So what we'll do now is Normally a bulkhead mount that you would buy would go in this way and sit like that and just put the nut on. This one goes the other way, so we got to put this ring on first and punch it through. That way it sits like so, and then we'll put on the our lock washer and our nut, and this should be giving enough ground. I don't see why it wouldn't. Give me enough grounding. I've got some pliers. And make sure that the ring on the back side doesn't move around too much. That one's perfect, right? Well, it's not seating properly for some reason. Twist it, turn it, get it to there it goes. You want to get it as flush as possible to the lid. That way the ground is there. One of these tightened on down. I had to go get it. Thought I had it here. And then just run this on down. Best as it can go, tight as you can get it. You don't want to put pliers on the threads, so we'll just like that. This is a little punch I made to punch a hole in to get started on the hole I drilled. I'm going to use it to bend up this tab. That's our top made. Next thing we want, this is not the jar I'm using, this is another one. It's just a little pickle jar. The solder out. And we're going to tin these wires. Tin the wires so that they will, be able to be soldered onto the connectors a little easier. And something like that should do it. Just a dab would do you of copper like this. This is just regular old Romex ground wire. I guess about a 14 gauge or so. It's not very thick. It can be a 12, it could be 14, 16 maybe. You want the ground wire out of it. That's the bare wire in the Romex. If you're in Europe, I think it's twin and earth is what they call it, flex. It's just all the same crap. It's just your house wiring stuff. Okay. There's that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to attach one line on the center. We'll put the other one on this little grounding tab. And then I'm going to kind of bend these out a little bit. That way they're not so close together. Stick that in the lid. Piece of solder here and go to work. Just go in and prep all these up to accept it. We'll start with our little ground. Get them tacked on. Then we'll put our center conductor in. Now this is very reminiscent of a Leyden jar, if you know what one of those are. Okay. You should end up with something like that and it'll go in. Now these are too long. Now, there's a reason for that, because like I said, I'm going to bend these around a little. And I'm going to use my pliers on my wire cutters to do this. Kind of, bend them around. Make them look a little neater. and to get them away from each other, or they're not so close. And then you'll end up with something like so. Still too long. I'm going to cut them off a little bit, try to, like so, tighten it down. And that should be it, basically. I'm going to trim them a little more, about a centimeter or so down. And we're ready for the water. This is the jar that I'm actually going to use. Where's my salt? Oh boy. I must be looking right at it. Okay, I'm back, and I had to, to make some corrections of the mixture. I had way too much salt in that water. Way too much salt. I had to go look it up. I did a half and well, not a half and a half. I did a couple of spoonfuls of salt, and that's not what you do. You're only supposed to use a tiny bit, and I would probably say that I used probably a quarter of a teaspoon of salt in this jar that is 24 ounces. Alright. I also had to modify the electrodes a little bit. The SWR was way beyond the safe zone, and on this radio I had to spread them out. These need to be as far apart as you can get them inside the jar. I know that's difficult because this is the lip on this jar expands and it comes in with the shape of it. Most jars they come in. I know it's difficult, but it is doable. And the way I have them bent is that they're riding right on the side of this jar now. So we're going to hook this up, and we're going to check forward power. Don't know if that can even be seen. I'll move the camera down to it. Alright, forward power, we're on a 50 watt scale. It is a 50 watt radio. 50 watts. And we'll reverse it and cross our fingers. And we're in the good. It's not the lowest SWR, but it is considered in the safe zone in that red. And that is in the reverse position. Right there. And we'll put it back forward. We're at 50 watts right here. And we're at 50 watts. Back. So that right there is good enough. And this is a VHF high band radio. This is currently the frequency on this radio is in 160 megahertz. This is a railroad radio that I had gotten. It is going through a dummy load, of course, though I am authorized to transmit on that band, but I don't. It's going through a dummy load. This thing, obviously. So it is in the 160. So this is valid for above 50 megahertz if you do it right. And I'm assuming that a bigger jar, the right mix of salt in the water, you know, with a bigger jar, maybe you can go into UHF. I don't know. I don't think I have a UHF radio handy to check it with. I did. I don't think I have one handy anymore. So yeah, this is a radio out of my vehicle. Yeah, railroad special out of my truck when I'm working on their stuff, by the way. So if anyone has to know, that's what's in my vehicle. And I'm working on the train stuff. But it's got other things in there too. Actually, I think Riverwood wasn't a railroad. I think that was a police department or tactical channel of sort in some small town, not even close to here. So, 144, 174, the VHF high band, the saltwater dummy load is valid for that. I don't think I have a ham channel in that radio either. I might. UHF stuff. We'll see. So yeah, we'll try a UHF. Here's a 25 watt PM400. This one I keep over there is kind of like a base station to monitor stuff. So we'll hook this guy up to our saltwater dummy load here and see. We'll put on a talk channel and talk around. So let me get the microphone. Borrow this microphone from it. Oh. No. So 25 watts. It's about 25 watts. Let me move the camera down for you here. Yeah, that's about right. I'm going to put it in reverse. And that's SWR. Way down there. So this is valid for UHF. This radio is transmitting. Let's see, what group is this? This is GMRS. What about this channel? Okay, this is in 466 megahertz transmit, and it receives 461.9125. So 466, our SWR is nil. It's fuck all. Where when I'm in forward, it's about 25 watts. So the saltwater dummy load that I have built here, okay, which is basically this Vlasic pickle jar. Punch the hole SO238 in the top. You have your copper leads coming down as far away from each other as possible. Try to ride them on the sides of this jar, bend them in a way. And then right at probably a quarter of a teaspoon. Now that is a little small bit, probably as much as my thumbnail here, worth of salt. And shake it up real good to mix it. Do all that, and that seems to be fine for VHF, UHF. From what I was reading, that this was made intentionally for HF and CB radio, but it seems to work even better at higher frequency. Now that might be a ratio of salt mixture. Not sure. Maybe high HF needs more salt in the tank than UHF, and I can imagine like 700, 800 megahertz that SWR would be non-existent completely, or say cellular or something, or even a Wi-Fi band way up in the high, up into 2 gigahertz or something like that won't even show up. Well, that's an old telewave meter. It's been calibrated recently. I probably need to have it serviced again. It's been a couple of years, or a year. But yeah, that's all it is. See the wire? And this can be filled up more, I think, with water. I could put more water in this. I didn't want to fill it all the way to the brim. But that's the electrodes. I tried to get them neat. I had them neatly bent earlier. You saw in the first part of the video, they were too close together. You want them as far away as possible, so. Saltwater dummy load, your ham operator, CB or GMRS person. All you need is basically a mason jar, some copper wires, table salt, good, a stipper drill, this or that, put it all together, and yeah, there it is.